Hey there, everyone. Grill Father Johnny Al here, and today I'm going to smoke you an ostrich round roast that you can't refuse. Hey, if you're new to the channel and visiting for the first time, we want to give you a giant Texas North welcome. Hey, Texas North is open. Let's get to talking about ostrich meat.
We are live from my backyard where I am smoking these meat like a brisket. I'm making meat now. Someone asked me, do I smoke meat? That's gonna be delicious. Yeah, if I smoke meat, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So today's meat is ostrich, and ostrich, just a little bit of background, is native to Africa. It's the largest and fastest bird. It can grow up to 8 feet tall, reach speeds of 40 miles per hour or faster, can be up to 400 pounds in weight, and they have really good eyesight. Now, ostrich is considered a red meat, and it's the closest alternative to beef in terms of taste and texture, but has less cholesterol and is 98% fat-free. So it's also a good source of protein, vitamins B6, B12, iron, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and zinc. And the meat itself is found in the hindquarters and the thighs of the ostrich. It also comes in all the different cuts that beef comes in as well, meaning it comes in steaks and burgers and ground meat. And of course, today, the round roast. Now, ostrich meat will cook up faster than beef due to the lower fat content and its leanness, and it won't shrink down. So it will maintain most of the original weight and size as the pre-cooked version of the meat. And we need to make sure that we take care to not overcook it and cook to no more than a medium internal temperature, or like I prefer, medium rare. Now, I'd like to take a moment and talk about this thing called alpha-gal. Now, you might be watching this video because you have alpha-gal syndrome, and I never heard about alpha-gal until about a month ago. And it's essentially an acquired allergy that is characterized by a delayed onset of symptoms after ingesting mammalian meat. And the condition results from past exposure to certain tick bites and was first reported back in 2002. So all in all, it's a fairly new type of allergy that has come on to the scene. And symptoms vary from one person to another, but common symptoms include rash and hives and nausea, difficulty breathing, a drop in blood pressure, stomach pain, and anaphylaxis as well. And there is no cure, but it can be managed and it can be treated. But here's the kicker. You have to avoid eating food products containing beef, pork, lamb, and venison. Can you believe it? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going anywhere near the woods anymore unless I'm fully clothed from head to toe. If you love barbecue and meat as much as I do, this is the last thing that you want to happen to you. It just seems like you can't go into the ocean anymore because you don't know what's waiting for you in there. Now you can't go into the woods because you risk not being able to eat barbecue. And I'll tell you what, I think the safest place for me personally to be is right here, hunkered down at Texas North. Now, the good news is that if you have this allergy, you can eat ostrich. You can eat emu as well. And I have one or more videos on emu also. So if you have not heard of alpha-gal before, you have now. So be warned and be careful. Let's go into the studio and get some ostrich prepared. Welcome back. Now here's the star of today's show. This is our piece of ostrich, and you can see that there's a significant amount of myoglobin in there. So I'm going to get this over to the sink, get it out of its packaging, pat dry all that myoglobin off. We'll come back here and get it prepared up. I'll see you in a minute. Now the first thing I'm going to do is clean up some of the little pieces of silver skin on this side. Now there's a lot more of it on the other side. The other side here, you can see there's a significant amount of silver skin. So I definitely want to take that off. And when you're trimming, you always want to trim the fat, trim the silver skin with the grain of the meat. You carve up against the grain, but you trim with the grain. So here's the finished, trimmed up piece of ostrich. I tried to get as much of that silver skin off as I could. Remember, when you're trimming meat, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I see so many people trying to make it a work of art, the trimming. And the fact of the matter is, no one is going to see the trimming except for you, the trimmed piece of meat. And the only thing that matters is at the end, the taste, the tenderness, and the texture. No one cares about how pretty it looks prior to the cook. I'm going to get to putting the binder and rub on next, but you can see that this end here is really kind of on the slim side, and it's going to cook up a lot faster than this thicker end. So what I'll do is, after I get it all seasoned up, I'm going to tuck this under like this and have it cook that way so that I get more of a nice thicker end on this side. So let's go ahead and put our binder on, and then we'll get our seasoning on, or rub on after that. Now my choice of binder that I like to use is duck fat, and this is the rendered version of duck fat. If you've seen some of my other videos, you see that I use an aerosol type of duck fat as well. So I'm going to use that. You can use whatever binder you want, but duck fat is kind of more of the healthy version, and it just adds a little bit to the flavor profile. So I'm going to take my turkey baster here and just put some in it, and then squirt it on here, and we'll get that moved around, get it nicely coated on that side, and we'll put a little more on the other. Don't need too much, just enough to coat it. That's good. Now the next thing and the last thing that I need to do is just put on my rub. This is my all-purpose rub, my homemade all-purpose rub. I'm going to have to make another batch. We're getting down to the end there. I'm going to give this a nice generous coat. Now remember, we're going to tuck this under, but I still want to give it some nice seasoning on all sides. Tap that in. Get this side here. End here. Okay. And this is really it for the preparation. What I'll do next is I like to cook my meats on a cooling rack for several reasons. It allows me to easily to transfer the meat in and out of the house and into the smoker and out. Now I'll just go ahead and tuck this in there. And it also gives me a clean surface to put the meat on. I don't have to worry about the grill grates, the smoker grates, having to clean them because my meat never touches it. So we'll put this on. This is a PAM sprayed up cooling rack. I'm going to let this sit overnight uncovered in the refrigerator and let some of that rub in there work its magic. And then we'll come back tomorrow and get into the actual cooking and smoking. Now the ostrich round rested overnight. Before we get outside and get to cooking, just wanted to share with you a couple of things. And the first is what I call the 4 T's for successful barbecuing: taste, tenderness, texture, and the fourth and most important T of all, technique. I say it's the most important because if you don't get the technique down correctly, if you don't do something right during that process, then the taste, the tenderness, the texture, one or all three of those is going to be impacted when you go to eat the meat. So technique is most important. You may wonder about the T of temperature, and temperature, I agree, is important. Not only the cooking temperature inside the smoke chamber, as well as the internal temperature of the meat that we're aiming for, as well as the ambient temperature outside. But I consider the T of temperature to be part of the technique, and I roll that up under the T of technique. What about the T of time? I'm not worried about time. I cook to temperature, not time. Whatever it takes to cook the meat, if it takes 3 hours, if it takes 4 hours, it doesn't matter to me. All that matters is that we get to that target internal temperature. Sometimes it's going to cook faster than others. It really just depends on a number of different factors. So I don't worry about time. If I'm baking something in the oven, then I'm more concerned about time. The second thing that I want to share with you is my cook log. And this is a 3-ring binder where I have all my cook log sheets housed. And I'll get to showing you a bird's eye view, a more detailed look of the cook sheet for today. And basically, my cook log, the cook sheet, allows me to manage and monitor the cook. And you'll see the different categories on the sheet here in just a moment. But the manage and monitor stage of cooking, which I like to call the M&M stage, you have to be focused and you have to keep things on track. And that's what this cook log sheet allows me to do. The other thing is that when I go to put today's cook log sheet away and I go to cook this kind of meat, again, this ostrich round, I can go back and pull this sheet out and refresh my memory right on the spot of what I did on this particular day and not try to have to reinvent the wheel 6 months or a year from now when I go to cook ostrich again. So those are a couple of reasons that I have a cook log. I've been doing this for 20 plus years and I still do this kind of thing. I still keep a cook log sheet for each and every one of my cooks, and I think it's really helpful, and I really encourage you to do this kind of system if you are new to barbecuing and if you're new to the world of smoking meat. So let's go ahead and take a detailed look at today's cook log sheet. So here's what we're looking at today. On the left here, we have our pre-cook categories, our in-cook, which is the M&M stage, and then some post-cook categories where we record our resting period, what the weather was for today, and any comments that I can find useful when I go to cook ostrich again. So I'm going to be using the Pit Boss smoker to smoke the ostrich round roast, which I purchased from Superior Ostrich. It's 3 pounds in weight. It was frozen when I got it. As you saw, we used the duck fat binder with the all-purpose rub. I'm going to be using cherry pellets to give it a nice sweet taste to it, as well as post oak mini split. So it's a 1-2 punch today of cherry and post oak. I'm going to put a water pan underneath the cooling rack where the meat is going to be sitting, just to add some moisture into the environment. And I'm going to sear the roast first before we actually put it into the smoker. Now down here in the M&M stage, we're looking to cook the meat at 225 degrees and take it to an internal temperature of 130 degrees. And we'll keep track of when we spritz it and any kind of number of times that we change the post oak mini splits as well. And then again, we will rest the meat for about 20 minutes today. So let's get outside and get to the next step. The smoker is up to temperature, so the last thing we need to do before we put the meat on is to get our smoker box fired up. And this is the smoker box here. This is a Diamond King smoker. It's a 6-inch by 12-inch size. It comes in a 6x6 as well. This is a game changer when it comes to pellet grills. This smoke box is going to give you stick burner, offset smoker type quality of smoke. And the way it works is you have this stainless steel smoker box. Inside I have an airflow cage with some fire starters. Then I have some lump charcoal in there. I'm going to fire this up. And we're going to let this lump charcoal ignite. Let it ash over just a little bit. Then we're going to come back and we're going to put our post oak mini split on. So we'll give this just a few minutes. Nice fire is going now. The lump charcoal is ashing over. So let's go ahead and put on our post oak mini split. And I get these at Woodchuck Firewood. Andy is the person that runs that company, and he can get you any kind of wood. I just like to use the post oak. You can see I have a nice mini split here. We'll go ahead and put this on. Let it catch. I'm just going to give it a little jump start with the torch here as well. And I promise you, when this goes into the smoker, you're going to see some beautiful post oak smoke generating. Again, this is a game changer for pellet grills. I highly recommend you spend the $50 to get yourself a smoker box. It does take up a little bit of room, but if you're only smoking one meat at a time, which is what I do, then it's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and let this catch, and then we'll get over to the smoker. So I have my searing station set up here. I have a 500-degree cast iron skillet going in here, and this is the first part of the actual cook. We're going to get a nice crust on the ostrich before we put it into the smoker. So I'm going to put a layer of avocado oil down. Let's give it a nice spread. Give a little more here. Then we'll place our meat on. Beautiful sizzle. Put my baking press on there just to keep that bottom surface intact with the meat as much as possible. And we'll let that sear for a couple of minutes. Then we will flip over and do the other side. It's been a couple of minutes. Let's go ahead and take the bacon press off. You notice that I put a piece of aluminum foil on there, and it's just to make things easier when I go to clean up. Just take it off. Don't have to worry about getting in between the grooves. Let's just take a look and see how things are going underneath here. This looks good. Got a nice sear. So let's do the other side. Same thing for a couple of minutes. That should do it for the sear. We'll remove this, and I'm going to flip this back over onto this side, put it back on my cooling rack. Then we will transfer this over into our smoker, which is ready to go. And we'll move this over. Put it down at this end so that the smoke rolls over it and under it. Post oak mini split. It's giving off some nice post oak smoke. And what we'll do now is we will take our hot water, put it into the pan. We always want to use hot water, and this will add moisture to the cook. We'll slide him in there. The smoker's going at 225. We want to take the ostrich to 130 degrees internal temperature. So we're now into the manage and monitor stage, the M&M phase. And we will be keeping an eye on things, checking in, and give it a spritz once in a while. And if we need to replenish the wood, we will do that as well. We'll see you in a little bit.
1
hour later. We are 1 hour into this cook. Just wanted to check on things. Internal temperature is showing at 106 degrees. And I have my post oak still going well. I did replenish it about 20 minutes ago. I'm going to give this a spritz right now of some apple cider vinegar just to help with the moisture on it. And remember, we're taking this to 130. So I'm definitely going to keep, I don't want to overcook this. I'm going to take it to a nice medium rare. And I'll see you when it's time to take it off. So my one meat probe told me that we are at 130 degrees. I'm going to do a double check here with my thermopen. Just see what we're looking at. 130. Bingo. I'm going to take it off, take it inside, and we are going to get to carving this up, slicing it up in about 20 minutes. I'll see you then. Our rest period is complete. Let's go ahead and unpackage this, see what we have as the final product from the smoker. All right. It's got some nice juices in the aluminum foil there, and I think I'm going to carve from this end. We'll start here. You know I like to carve on the double bias, right? 45-degree angle this way, 45-degree angle this way. This will give us extra tender meat based on having more surface area on each slice. Remember, we took this to 130 degrees internal temperature. It is slicing very nicely, getting close to the middle here. You'll also recall that I folded under that thinner end just so that we get some nice thicker pieces on that side. We are about to the middle, and you can see that the knife is gliding very easily through. One or two more slices here. We will take a look. The final in the middle looks like. Well, there you go. It's a nice pink color inside. Remember, this is a little bit of a darker meat than beef. So it looks juicy, and it looks very tender. Just take a piece here and do a little tug test on it. You can see that it comes apart very easily. So I'm happy about the tenderness. And what I'll do now is I'm going to do my own little taste test off to the side. I'll finish slicing this up, and we'll come back and do some closing comments. See you in a minute. I finished slicing up the ostrich, and I rang the dinner bell and let the gang know that it was time to eat. I did a little taste test off to the side. You know I don't like to do taste tests on camera because I can't offer you a bite to eat, so I like to mind my manners and be polite and not eat in front of you. And when I did the taste test, I was super happy with the juiciness and the tenderness that you could see on the carving board when I was slicing it up. And it just turned out really, really good. Kind of like a texture, a beefy type of texture. But I promise you, if you've never had ostrich before and you'll follow the technique that I outlined and laid out in today's video, you are going to really love this kind of meat. I know it's hard to find. I got mine again at Superior Ostrich, had to do it online, but it's definitely worth the investment. And especially if you suffer from the alpha-gal syndrome, ostrich is definitely the way to go as an alternative to eating beef and pork and venison. I will definitely be doing more ostrich in the future. I'm not going to do the taste test on camera, but I am going to give this the Grill Father Johnny L stamp of approval. Hey friends, thanks for taking a moment out of your day to check out my video. I hope you found it useful and helpful. Would you do me the kind favor of hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as well as sharing this video with a family member or a friend? This is Grill Father Johnny L. Until next time, take care, God bless, smoke on. Ciao for now.